Hello everybody, welcome to my studio. My name is Lonna. I'm glad you're here today. We're going to paint a fun Christmas design. You know how I love to paint Christmas stuff, and especially if I've added any kind of peppermint look into that Christmas design. So we're going to be painting what I've titled Holly Jolly Glow. It's an ornament. It's going to be a lot of fun. It should be a fairly easy one. And I think that you are going to enjoy it. Now you can paint this on any ornament shape. It does not have to be the exact shape that I use. I'm going to be using Deco Art Americana acrylic paints. So if you're ready, let's grab our paints and supplies and let's get painting. Alright, I've got this surface prepped. I believe this surface is available Pinecraft? I think this is that Pinecraft, but I'll double check that and make sure that it is in the packet correctly. It's a surface that I used to sell. So we're going to get started on this fun, I hope, quick Christmas ornament design. And I love these bigger ornaments. I just think they make beautiful standout pieces on my tree, and I can still have my other smaller ones in there, but an occasional little bit bigger ornament. You could use it as a gift tag. Just a great piece to use. So we got to get some underpainting done on some of our elements here. And my main one here is going to be a white candle, but I want to start it out as just a slightly blue color. As my, to get it started. That way when we add highlights on it, we can, see those colors a little bit more. Okay, I've got all my colors out here. I've got white, deep midnight blue, salted caramel, turquoise blue, and fairway green. So we're going to make those mostly our base colors and paint in our elements. Okay, so for my center one, like I said, I want it to be a little bit of a light blue color. So I'm going to take white and just a tiny bit of that deep midnight blue, just to give our candle a little bit of a blue tone. It's going to look mostly white right now because the blue is not going to translate right away. I need some water, so let me spritz my palette here. Okay, and then we're going to sort of go around these berries here. I'm not going to worry too awful much about those berries. Okay, we'll have a second coat that we have to put on there, so alright, then we're going to make one of these a blue candle and one a gold, and the same over here. So I'm going to take my white and a little bit of salted caramel to start out for my gold color. I think I'll make this one gold, and then over here I'll make the outer one gold. So we'll take 2 coats on each element that I am painting in here. So I'm going to show you the first coats, and then I'll go off camera and apply the second coats. So I'm going to make this one over here gold. Okay. And then the other 2 are going to be blue. You could make them red if you want, but I'm going to make them this turquoisey blue. I'm going to mix my dark blue in with it. So I'm going to do 2 turquoise and 1 of the deep midnight. This one over here, and again we'll be applying 2 coats. So and then this candle kind of comes down here. I may put some pine needles in around this holly and really fill this in. So we don't have to worry about where the bottom of the candles are. Okay, let's put a coat on our candles, our leaves. And I'm going to see if that fairway green may not be opaque enough. We'll see. Well, it's not too bad. So I think after we get 2 coats on here, it will be okay. So we're going to paint all of our leaves in with fairway green. I will just do a couple right here and then show you what color we're going to paint our berries. And then I'll just go off camera and finish all of the leaves and get second coats on everything before I come back. Make this leaf a little bit fatter here. Okay, so all the leaves all the way across, we'll get that color. And then we're going to base in our berries with fresh mango. So they'll all get a couple of coats of fresh mango. Okay, so we'll take that all the way across. And after we get that done, 2 coats on everything, we'll come back and start this project. Okay, I've decided before I paint my second layer in on my leaves and my berries, I want to tap some like greenery down around all this stuff. And so I've mixed deep midnight blue 2, 1 of the what did I use? Dragon teal, which is going to be my shading color on my leaves, and 1 of the fairway green, which is the base color up here. And I believe that's all that I mix this with. Try and stay off of my candles if I can, especially the light colored ones. The darker ones I don't care so much about. So we've just got this little, I don't know, mossy, grassy stuff going on under it. So that's going to be the first layer on that. I'm just using a dry stencil brush. So that's my first layer on my undergrowth here, and I want to add a second layer. So my second layer is just, I think I'm just going to add a tiny little bit of white or turquoise blue to my brush. So I'm going to add a little bit of turquoise to my already dirty brush and kind of tap blend that. We'll see how this is going to look. It might be too bright. I'm going to remove some of the paint off because I want this to be even less than the previous layer. We can bring some of our berries out in that at the end. I think I'm just going to leave it right there for now. When I start adding highlights everywhere, I may come in and tap a little bit of white in there, but I think for now we're just going to leave those two layers. So now I'm going to go finish my leaves and my berries based in so we can move on from there. But I'm done with my stencil brush for now, so I can rinse it out. All right, let's keep moving on with this project. I want a dry brush on this center candle here, and I'm just going to take a really old, worn-out brush, and I'm going to load it with some white paint, and then I'm going to offload it, and then I'm just going to dry brush it down the center of this candle. You should immediately start seeing a difference in color. Too many bright lights, probably can't see it. There you can see a little subtle white in the center. So it's just a dry brushy effect here. I'm going to put another layer in there, but while it's drying, I want to grab a detail brush. And we're going to paint in the wick. And then we are going to paint in the topper and the bell down here with the same mix. And you don't have to be exact. We're going to make a medium gray color by mixing black and white together. Black and white, get a medium gray. So if that's black, this is white, this is medium, in between the two. So we're going to paint in our little wicks, and this one doesn't look like it's in the center, so I'm going to move it over here and erase that line. And put one here. And this one doesn't look like it's centered either. Okay, so we got our candle wicks in there. That feels dry, so I can add another little layer of paint in there. Start bringing that up to a little bit brighter, especially on this left side. I think I want it to be my highlight. I'm not going to worry about getting paint in the background because we have a black background. We can certainly clean that up once we get all of our details done on our candles. Okay, I will try to keep it off of my leaf down here. Okay, so that's got a nice little highlight, dry brushy on the white candle. So let's just go ahead and base coat in our topper and our bell. I may do this area down here too. So again, just the white and the black to make that medium gray. And then our circle up here, and then we'll just leave that negative space black. And if you're doing a different background color, then just go ahead and paint that negative space in there with some black. Okay, let's do down here on the bell. We're going to paint, I'm just going to go ahead and paint the entire bell in. We'll add those little areas back in. Again, we'll have some negative space down here. So just go ahead and paint the whole thing in. That's going to make it so much easier on you. And then I want this area to be silver, kind of like that area is. So we're going to paint it in with the same mix. And if you get your shape kind of weird, like right there, I kind of got my gray down a little far. When I'm done getting the second coat on, I'll come back in and touch that up with some black. And we could have made this gold. Gold would have looked really good on this. So I may leave it gray for now. I think I might go in and change that to a gold color. We shall see. I kind of want to do some gold trim along the outside of this, but now that I'm looking at it, I'm not sure that I will. I'm really totally undecided right there. Okay, so 2 coats onto that. We've dry brushed in the center. We're going to start working on this candle here and get it done. Okay, I've changed my mind. I don't want to leave it gray, but gray's a good undercoat for this gold. So go ahead and paint a layer of gray underneath here. Just 1 layer is all you need. And now I'm putting antique gold on top. You could go with a much lighter color if you wish, like a moon yellow. But I'm going to get all these elements based in with this antique gold. And it will take 2 coats here, so let it dry and get a second coat on. But the gray underneath is a good color to start with, because this yellow is not going to cover that black. And if you want, you could paint underneath it with white, or like I said, you can just go with moon yellow, because that is a much more opaque yellow that you can put on here. So undercoat first with something, either white or a medium gray color, and then put your 2 coats of antique gold on top. Okay, I've got my gold painted on there. I want to dry brush a little bit for a glow on around the wicks. So I'm just going to take a scruffy type brush. Actually, I've got a deerfoot here, and we're going to see how well it works. I want to just very lightly make a glow around our wick area. I'm very softly rubbing. If you've got a stiffer brush and you don't have a lot of paint in it, you might have to rub a little bit harder, but we just want a little bit of a glow on these wicks. Okay, that looks pretty good. We've got a nice little glow started. We'll come back and add some more color onto that, but that's got us going. Okay, in my little scruffy brush, I put a little bit of the crimson red and a little bit of fresh mango, just to get just very light orangey color. I don't have a lot of paint in my brush. You can kind of see what color it's going to be right there. It's going to lean a little more towards the red side. And we're going to put this around our wick. Mix a little bit more here on my... We're going to go back over that wick with some black, but we kind of needed to be able to see where we were going with this glowy part that we were going to add to it. Okay, I want to take a little bit of bright yellow, so that was a mix of the mango and the red. So I'm going to take a little bit of bright yellow. And see if this will show up on here. It may not. Just kind of go out here past the red and then just kind of blend it. Just tap and blend, tap and blend. Tap, tap, tap. And then I'll take the water edge and blend, blend, blend. You can even get your finger in there. Help tap that down. Want to cover up our white way out there, and we don't want to cover up our orangey red color. We just want a little bit of this yellow in here, and it may end up not showing tons, but I think it'll still help with the look. You could go back with your dry brush and try doing this. Actually, you could do your yellow before you do your red. That would probably be way easier. I say dry brush the yellow after you do the white, and then you just come in with a little bit of red there. Okay, that looks pretty good. A little tap of that red and orange mix on there, but definitely do the white, a little bit of yellow, but don't fill in all your white, and then do the red. Red's going to be just right there at the wick. So I think that will take care of the glow in there, and then we can go ahead and paint our wick back in here. Tiny little highlight of white on that wick. Okay. I think that will take care of the glow for now. We may come back and add a little bit onto our candles after we get them all decorated up. This candle needs to be straightened up a little bit. It looks crooked. And then, you know, we'll see where that glow goes from there. All right, let's work on the white candle here in the center. We're going to add some stripes on here. Just use a small round brush, and your stripes can be, you know, whatever thickness you want them to be. So you can either follow my pattern or just create your own beautiful stripes on here. I am going to put some thin stripes in between, so I do want to leave a gap. I'm not picking up a lot of paint on my brush, so I'm not, you know, getting ridges and stuff in there that I don't want. Something on the end of my bristles. Okay, now I'll take my detail brush. I am going to repeat on those thicker lines, but when I do these thinner lines, I won't. They're too difficult to try and repeat. So you can put 1 or 2 thin stripes in between your thick ones. Totally up to you. I love making peppermint stripes. They are so fun and so cute. So I'm going to do a quick second layer on my red stripes. Thin your paint down a little bit so you've got a little bit of flow to your paint. It's going to keep you from laying thick paint in and having ridges and areas that you don't like. Okay, peppermint candle, always a must-have, I think. Okay, I really think these could use another layer, and this one looks like it could be a little bit straighter here. And the rest of them don't look too bad, so I need to add a little bit more paint right there. All right, my red stripes I believe are dry, so we're going to shade on the red candle. Now I'm not going to make any melting wax or, you know, a deep well or anything in that. I'm going to keep these kind of simple. But, you know, if you want to have that effect on yours, then you can certainly do that. So I'm going to shade around our berries that aren't done. And down here at the bottom. And along this edge here. That's looking super cute already. We got to get that layer dry so we can darken that candle, the shading, and then put our highlights on there. Okay, once that layer is dry, we want to repeat our shading. So we'll take that dark color that we use, which I'm using Rookwood Red, and a little bit of black in there, not too much. This is going to make it more of a burgundy color. Going to shade this side here and down here at the bottom. to our leaves here. And get this a little bit darker. And I might want to bring just the Rookwood Red, our first shading color, over just a little bit. Take it over about 1/3 of the way across your candle. I think that's going to give the best balance before you come back and add the black into your Rookwood Red. Just make sure that your Rookwood Red kind of comes over a little bit farther onto that candle. Grab a mop brush so I can kind of soften that. Okay, and now we just need to highlight on this one. So I think I want to do kind of a dry brushy highlight on this. I think I will get a little bit smaller flat brush. This is a 6. You could probably go down to a 4. And I'm going to load my white paint and then offload it. And we'll see how this is going to look. I want it to be kind of dry brushy on this side. Looks good. Touch up in our background. Yeah, just do it once, maybe twice if you want it a little bit brighter, but I want to come back with get some fresh white out because that white had some yellow in it. I don't want yellow on my peppermint. And normally I go straight down the center for my highlight, but because I made my highlight mostly over here, I'm going to go over here with it. It's Shine Highlight. Okay, so that will finish up the peppermint candle. So now we can move on to, I think I'll do the gold candles next. Alright, the gold candles. My plan is to paint these little stars in with some gold paint. But first we want to go ahead and do our shading. I'm going to try that salted caramel. Did I use it somewhere? I haven't used it anywhere. So I could go with antique gold since I haven't used salted caramel anywhere. Antique gold. Antique gold's not super dark, so I might try and mix it with some Rookwood Red. Just a tiny bit will just darken it down just a little bit. Get the red paint off me. You can still see my stars that I put on here. Grab some water on my brush. Do this one. This is antique gold with a little tiny bit of Rookwood Red. Just to deepen that gold just a little bit. That's a nice little shading on there. And for the other side, I want to try and do a little dry brushy look like I did on that one. Like I did over here. I'll get some white paint. And this one I'm going to dry brush a little bit in the center and just that little bit on the left that we can see. Okay. And then we're going to paint our gold stars on here. Okay, let's work on these little stars we got on here. And I just hand drew them. If you have a stencil that has really small stars on it, you can use that. I drew these on and then I took an eraser and erased them back so those, because I just drew them on with a pencil, so the lines wouldn't be so dark. Sure I don't get out here. Oh man, I wish you could see how shiny those are. It never shows up well on camera, but they sure are pretty. I'm going to let them dry and apply 2 coats of this gold on here. And we'll repeat our shading, probably with that same mix. Oops, wrong color. See a little bit of that shine on those stars. Okay, we have to let that dry. While those stars are drying, I'm going to go ahead and paint these in down here. Get that part of the bell. Okay, let's just do a quick little second shading on here. I'm just going to use the antique gold this time. We really want to keep these a gold candle. Don't have very much paint at all. I'm going to have to go back over some of these stars to kind of perk them up a little bit. But we do want this candle to look more gold, okay? So I just did antique gold that time. So let me quickly dry that. And I'm going to do just white on this side. A little bit across the top, I think, will help on this one. And then I am going to go back over a couple of those gold stars where I put some shading and stuff on so we can perk up that, that gold back up. Okay, these are looking super good. I'm going to shade the blue ones now with some deep midnight blue. This edge here. Get my mop brush. I'm going to kind of smooth that choppiness out a little bit. I like to keep my first floats, I like to keep them soft and not tons of paint. You know, plenty of water, especially on that water edge, which is the heel part if you're using a angle brush. Gently mop that because that's pretty wet. It will probably remove some of that. Our gold stars look so cute on there. They look so much better in person than they do, you know, on camera shot. The sparkly things and shiny things just have a tendency to not show up as well, which is a shame because you don't get the full effect as I'm painting it that I get right in front of me. Now, typically when I'm doing a more seasonal painting, I like to put glitter on mine. But I think this one I'm going to stay mostly with the gold and have the gold kind of enhancing what we're doing here. Okay, let me just give that a quick dry because I want to repeat that. I want to repeat it with just that midnight blue before deep midnight blue before I get a darker mix to make a little bit darker shading because I really need this to come over a little bit farther. I didn't have enough paint in my brush and I had too much water, so wasn't really getting the effect that I wanted here, the look that I wanted it to have. I definitely needed more paint in my brush. Quick little mop there. That one's almost dry, but I can gently mop this one and kind of settle it down in there. We are going to do a mix of, add a little bit of black to that so we can have our darker shadows in here. We can start with our first highlight on here. It's going to be a mix of turquoise blue and white. I'm just going to do an equal mix here. And we'll put this on this side and kind of walk it over into the candle. And again, I have water in my brush so it's not leaving a lot of paint down there. Let me get some of that moisture out of my brush and reload it with a mix of that turquoise blue and white. I'm going to bring that over a little bit. Let me dry this one because it doesn't have near enough color on it for me. If you ever feel like you lose the color of your candle with your shading and highlighting, go back to your base coat and create a wash of it and just kind of wash it in the center of the candle. And that will bring the candle right back to the color that you base coated, and it will all be good. Alright, a little pea pat on there. Bring this over a little bit more. I need to shade by that leaf. I didn't shade by that leaf. So I'm going to grab my Deep Midnight and go ahead and get that. So we've got our first shading and our first highlight on here. Okay, first shading, first highlight on our blue. Okay, I've got it all dry, so let's repeat. We're going to take our Deep Midnight Blue and add just a little bit of our lamp black in there to make it a really dark, deep blue. And we're going to go in here. You mostly, on your second shading, you want to get your dark areas, you know, your really deep shadow areas. If you've painted with me much, you know those are going to be mostly your little V areas. Anything that makes a V, a point, a triangle, anything like that, those are going to be your dark, shadowy areas. I'm going to put just a little bit along this edge because I don't want to take away from that Deep Midnight Blue, but I do want a little shadowy stuff over there. It technically could be highlighted on this side because it is in front of that candle. Alright, now we're just going to highlight with white. Again, you could do the dry brush stuff here. When you use your mop brush to soften the paint, it's also going to lift some off. So you got to make sure you clean your brush and remove any of that excess paint that you've got on there, so it makes it a little bit more possible for you to get that softness and not transfer more paint where you don't want it. So I always go to a clean damp place on my paper towel and remove the paint and then dry it on a dry spot. And that way I am not putting any paint where I do not want to paint. Okay? Okay, let me dry that because I feel like it could use just a scooch more white in there. Okay, and then if you want the shiny mark, kind of like we did, the shiny highlight like we did here, that's just your white paint, and you can just create a little bit of a highlight. I won't have a very big one there or here. And then we can do one here. Okay, so we kind of did a shiny highlight on each of them. So for me, for now, my candles are done. We're going to move on to the leaves and the berries next. All right, our leaves at the base of them, we are going to mix dragon teal and a tiny little bit of black. It's going to make like this deep turquoisey color. We'll see if this is dark enough to show up. Bit more black in there. I don't want it to become so dark that it starts to blend in with the background, you know. You just want to make sure we can see a different value here. I might try mixing deep midnight blue. Let's see how this looks. No, it's not quite dark enough, so we do have to stick with that little bit of black in there. It's the dragon teal and a little bit of black. Or a lot of black, that one. It looks like I got a lot of black in there. That's okay. They don't all have to be the same, so you don't have to do matchy-matchy here. Just work from one leaf to the next. And I'm going to put some shading down here. I want that to stay not shaded because it's going to be the highlight area. Generally, you do it at the base. We'll put some of this down the center for the center vein, and then I'm doing the lower parts of the leaf. And then where one leaf lays over another one, we need to have some shadow. A little bit of black and the dragon teal. Kind of start my center vein here with this color as well. I'm just chisel edging, pulling from the back of the leaf, or the base of it, out. Okay, so that is our first shading and our center vein. All that is started. All right, so we've got our first shading on everything. So now we want to repeat that shading to darken it. And you don't have to do it everywhere. I say just pick some places that you feel like, oh, that could be a bit darker, and go with it. We definitely want the bases to be a little bit darker, but we don't have to go all the way up our leaves if we don't want to. So This is where you just make a decision on, you see I'm mostly doing at the base. Maybe, you know, go up into the leaf somewhere where you put some of your shadow color on there. It's down from my little berry there. Okay, this is still just that same mix. We're just getting a little bit darker layer on here, but it's still the same mix. I didn't add any extra black in there. We're just going with the same color. All right. So that looks pretty good for our dark color. So now we can start adding a highlight on here. I'm going to try this avocado toast and see how well it stands on these leaves. They used to have a green color in the Americana line that was avocado dip, and I loved that color for leaves. I also loved olive green for leaves, so I'm gonna put a little highlight on the end of this one, and wherever it's coming here, I can't tell where I drew my line there, so we're just gonna we're starting to see some of that highlight on there. So this is just avocado toast. The leaves aren't very big. They shouldn't take an extremely long time to paint. You can see it's fading down in there a little bit, but still brightening up those leaves, so it's a very, very pretty color for these leaves. And then we got one more that we want to highlight here. This little edge down here, make that tip kind of bright. Alright, I'm going to make sure I didn't miss any place. I missed the tip on this one. See if I can do it with this big brush. Highlight in there, I think will help that. And that looks pretty good. We can go next to our center vein if you want and add just a little bit of a highlight, maybe down just the center part of it. We're not taking it all the way to the base, we're just doing like the center area of that vein. You can switch to a detail brush or a round brush if you want to. I'm just using the tip of this angle brush that I've been painting with. And I am using a 3/8 inch angle brush. Okay, so you can see how that is beautifully fading down into those leaves. So we're going to add a second highlight on here and brighten them up. They are really perked up. Alright, let's take our avocado and mix some bright yellow in it. We'll just do an equal mix here. Actually, no, we're going to do 2 yellow and 1 one avocado toast. And again, I'm not going to do every place. I just want this little bit of brightness. It's one avocado toast and two bright yellow. Okay, and you can add a little bit of this on your center veins, next to your center veins if you want to. Some of my lines got a little thick, so probably a detail brush would work best here. Okay, that looks good. We're going to do one final little highlight on those leaves and be done with them. A little bit of white to brighten, and I'll probably just use my detail brush to put a little bit of that on there. Okay, just a little bit of white, and we're just going to give a little thin line. Just in a few places. Don't overdo it. Super thin. Thin it down with some water, get some inky consistency going there. Okay, that really helps those leaves out. We may come back and put a little gold on those when we're done. We shall have to see about that. I'm not 100% sure on that. I'm going to probably add some smaller little leaves in and around here when we get done, but for now I want to shade around our leaves here, kind of lift them up and create some shadow under them. You don't have to do all areas. You just want to give a little lift. This will help give a little bit of a 3D look to your painting here. We'll do our berries when we get ready to do them. When we finish them out, we'll probably do some of this color around our berries a little bit. Okay, we only need to do it one time. I think will be enough. I think I will put a little bit of black up here though. Really dark places right there. Okay. I'm going to do my berries after I get them painted in, but I think that's going to finish off the leaves until we come back and add some little filler leaves in there. Maybe even some little filler flowers. I haven't decided yet, but definitely I want to put some filler leaves in there. Okay, let's finish out the berries. They're going to be super quick, super easy. All right, so our berries, we basically want them to be red, but we started them out with kind of this orangey color because it was just easiest that way. So we're going to go on the lower parts of our berries with Rookwood Red. This one is underneath the leaf, so I'm going to go up here on this edge. This is going to give our berries a nice rich color. If they're going under a leaf, you definitely want that edge to be the dark edge. I know it looks kind of funny right now, but we'll get it hopefully looking like a berry. It might take a couple of layers, but we'll get there. They're super easy though. Don't want you to overthink these berries. They're see, I'm not filling the whole berry in. Okay, I'm going to rinse that out of my brush and go into my crimson. And now you can create a wash of this color, but this is a transparent color, so we're just going to put it on here. Oh, I missed some of them. Okay, I'm just going to wipe that off and go into some brookwood so I can get these 3 berries caught up. Probably do this crimson twice because we can go right over that rookwood and develop that darker area, but then the berries will still look red. You can make your berries orange. I have done orange ones in the past. It really is whatever look you're going for. Okay, so we got our first layer on our berries of rookwood red and crimson red. Alright, let's do another layer of our crimson. I'm going to actually do the whole berry. And I'm going to come back with rookwood red and a little bit of black maybe. While it's wet, I got a little bit bigger brush here, so I'm not really sure how well this is gonna. If you want to shade and float all of these berries, by all means, go right ahead. We're just washing over them with that crimson red, and then our rookwood and a little bit of black mix. I want to try and not leave like a hard line on there, so you know, if you have to wet blend those, then by all means do that. So we start out with our bright red, and then go to our dark red, our mix. And I'm going to take my bright red and just kind of blend that where they meet right there. I'm trying not to put a lot of extra moisture in my brush when I do this because I want to be able to blend my paint out without lifting it. Okay, the red first, the bright red. Looking pretty good. We got 2 left. Let's go ahead and do them both. Our crimson red. And our mix here. And go back with my bright red and blend it where I stopped right there. And they look pretty good. We don't need tons of detail on these berries. We're going to put a little highlight on them real quick with just some white. A little dot on the brighter side. And you can miss some if you want, if you don't want them all to have a highlight. They don't have to have a highlight. Alright. Those look super, super good. I really like them. Okay, now we'll take our little bit smaller angle brush and some black. And like we did underneath the leaves, we're going to do the same around the berries, and this will help us separate our berries and lift them up a little bit. This is just black. So we can add a little bit more of a shadow in here to kind of, you know, create some depth. We'll go around our berries because we need it to be dark. We don't want any light areas that don't look natural. Okay, so in here we're going to put some black, kind of separate these a little bit, give them a little bit of shadow. Go around them here. And this one here we could go around it on this side. It's also a good opportunity to reshape any of those berries that you're just not happy with. I need moisture. Okay, maybe not quite that much paint. Bring as much depth into your painting as you can. Bit of this more here, definitely on the blue. right, a couple more here. Let's put a little shadow under. Kind of lift them up just a little bit. And I think that looks good. A little bit of shadow. I need some right there. That should be a shadowy area right there. Okay, and then any place that you feel like it needs a little bit more darkness, you just go in there and do that. This is just your opportunity to add more depth. That's it. I want to stay off my star right there, but I need a little bit down in here, a little bit of darkness. Alrighty, I think we're looking pretty good. Right here we can use a little bit darker shadow, just with a little bit of that black. Sometimes my finger lifts a little bit more paint than I want it to lift. And then I've got a little bit too much right here on this leaf. A little black where I don't want it, so let me clean that up with a damp brush. Okay, our candles and leaves look really good. I want us to do the filler leaves and the filler flowers next, and then we'll do the topper and the bell. And we'll see if it needs anything else. Okay, my filler leaves, I'm just going to use a round brush and go in here and add some leaves using my, what am I using? Avocado toast. So just put a few leaves here and there. You don't have to go crazy with leaves. You want them to go different directions though, so let's not put them all going the same direction. Different sizes. Here. Alright, let me look at that and see how it looks. I think that looks pretty good. Some really cute filler flowers. Those don't show up very well because of where they're at. So you could go in and put a little bit darker, like add a little bit of the fairway green, which was our base color for our big leaves. Just mix it in and then see if those will top a little bit more. There we go. And then I think those look good. I don't want to overdo, but I do want to put just a tiny little bit of maybe some white on them. Maybe. Maybe not. Let me see how this is going to look. I mean, this is the thinnest of lines here. It's just white, just a little along the tip and partly down an edge. This will also help you determine which direction your leaves are going. Okay, where am I at? Down here. Okay, I think that looks pretty good for our little filler flowers, or filler leaves. As far as filler flowers go, okay, we're almost done with this design here, so let's get to finishing up. We're going to work on the topper, the bottom part, and the bell all at once, and then when we finish all of this, we'll also finish out this line work around the outside. Now the line work is optional. If that's not a look that you want to go for on yours, you can simply leave that part off. But I think it's gonna, you know, add a little something to it. Okay, so we want to, I've drawn my little lines on here showing how my metal looks. Okay, so I want to dry brush with some white, and I'm just going to use a I've got a I'm not sure what size this is, a 3 or a 4 round, I'm not sure. It's probably a 3. So I'm going to load my brush and then offload, because I want to do some dry brushing by just going down through the centers of these sections. I'm trying to make this look like some metal up here, and we'll go through the circle as well, the hanger, I guess, creating some dry brushy look. I'm going to do the same down here, dry brush. And then on the bell, we want to dry brush on the bell. This can just be a messy little dry brush on here. I didn't have much paint on my brush, so I'm not leaving a whole lot on there. Okay, I think I'm going to go back and repeat just to brighten, and to also, I brought it down this way this time. I'm going to flip it over and go the other direction. Very lightly. Okay, we'll do down here as well, a little bit of paint. Especially want to wipe off the tip, because we don't want a ton of paint on the tip of our brush. It is just a light little brushing on here. And the hit and miss kind of where it leaves a little more here or there, that is a perfect look. Okay, So that's our white highlight. Now we may come back and brighten that one more time after we get all our shading on there. We'll see how it looks at the end here. Okay. Let's see, what color do I have here? I have antique gold. That's what we base this color in. So I'm going to take my antique gold, and I think we're going to try and mix a shading color. Here, let's try some Rookwood red in here, a little bit of teal. That's going to get us this little kind of golden brown color here. Well, let's see how this looks. That was like a 1-to-1 mix there on all those colors. And get us a shading color on here. That's not too bad. We can darken that for our next layer, but we've got to establish our sections in here. So when I did these, I did it on this side. But when I come to do these last couple here, I'm going to go on this side. I also want to do it out here on this outside edge. Okay, so that is our antique gold, Rookwood red, and our dragon teal. I did a 1-to-1 mix. Mix it, and then if you feel like you need a little more balance in one of the other colors, you can certainly add more or less of any color that you have in that. Actually, I needed to start here. And then these need to be on this side. So that was a little off, but we'll go with it. Okay, and then our bell is going to be shaded here. And come around to this side. I'll touch up my black there. I'm not going to worry about my black. I'm going to go down around the bottom of the bell as well. Okay, that's just our initial first shading. I think I also want to go a little bit too much blue in there, so let me put a little more golden red in there. I think I'm going to also go along the bottom here. Okay, that top edge I'll come back and highlight. We'll highlight along the top there. We can put a little bit inside the circle here. Get a little bit of shading on it. Smooth that out. And of course we'll highlight along this edge on the bottom section. Okay, we're going to be putting some gold on top of this, so you know, we don't have to overcomplicate this topper and the bottom and the bell. Okay, let's make that mix again. I think everything's dry. So that was the antique gold, the Rookwood red, and the dragon teal. And I'm going to add a teeny tiny little bit of black in there this time, just to darken a little bit, so we can get some little bit darker value in here in just a few places. So maybe right in the centers of these areas. And give that a little bit more depth. And also go along this bottom edge here. I'm just going to tap it along here. Okay, one gold, one Rookwood red, one dragon teal, and a little bit of black. Now the black is optional. If your mix is already pretty dark and you like how it looks, you can certainly stay with that. Okay, just in the center here. along this edge. Okay, that's a lot of paint on my brush. Let me remove some of that so I can put a lighter layer on here. We don't want heavy paint on here. Darken it right here. And we'll darken it down here. Okay, I also want to put a little bit of this on the outside edges of the topper and the bottom section. A little tiny bit more black in there for this section. And then we're going to do the bottom areas as well. After we get all this done, before we add our shiny to it, we will touch up our black areas. I've got out of shape here, so see if I can't shape it back a little bit. Okay, because we got to highlight along that edge. We got to highlight along that edge in the very top, and then we're going to highlight around these little sections here. Touch up our black and do our lining work. So let me do white for my highlight here. So I'm going to highlight along here. I'm just doing one section at a time. I'm not going like a straight line across there. And I'm not putting a lot of paint on my brush. We're going to highlight the top up here. Give that a little shine. There's many ways that you can do your highlight on a project like this. So I've done toppers and things like this on several projects, so you can go check out those videos and see how I did all of those. I do want to go around my little holes here and give them a little bit of a highlight. You can do this with a detail brush. I'm just trying to stay up on the tip here of my bristles. See, I'm just kind of dabbing it in there. I'm not like actually painting it on there. I'm just kind of dabbing it, tapping it around that. Got a little bit in my dark color there, so I will remove that. Okay, maybe put a little bit more through there. Okay, I'm going to touch up my black now, and I think that will finish the topper and the bell and the bottom part. Just clean up. That's a good thing about a solid color background. You can come up at the end and clean anything up that you don't like. Like that's not very straight right there, so I'm going to straighten that up. And over here as well. And then this little section in here could use some cleaning up. Just take your time, don't get in a hurry here. You're just doing a little bit of paint. Got a little bit high right there, it looks like. Take that black off right there and try and straighten that back out without getting it so high. looks better. Nice and straight. Black is cleaned up. Looks good. I might go back and brighten my highlight here. I'm just going to keep this round brush and probably like to be on camera, huh? I went just a little bit across these. Just brighten them up. A little bit of brightening here. Okay, that was way too much paint. And a little bit up here. A little bit right here. We have a little bit of a highlight here. Okay. For me, the shading looks really good on my toppers and stuff. If you feel like it does not look as dark as you would like it to look, or you know, dimensional as you'd like, I would suggest creating a wash of black, just a wash, and adding that onto your topper. I'll kind of give you an idea of how that's going to look here. I'm going to create just a very sheer color here, letting it mix with that paint. Alright, I let it mix with the water, I guess, not with the paint. So that gives it a little bit more depth along there. You can put this wherever you feel like your shadow could use a little something. Okay, so definitely needed it right there. We still got our shiny gold to put on here, so this is still just that wash of black here. Okay, that looks pretty good. So that step, totally optional. You know, if you feel like it needs more depth, then go ahead and do that. You can also, if you feel like your highlight in here needs more, this is why I say when we only did the two highlights, I said we'll come back and see if we want more. Once we're done putting in our shading, and I feel like it could use a little pickup in here. Okay. All right, so that finishes those. You can leave them just like that. You don't have to do anything else, but we want to add that gold that we put here somewhere else on this project. So we're going to create a wash to go on our topper, our bottom part, and our bell down here, so that we can have that gold carried out. And then I'm going to outline around this. Now that's where I say the outline part is optional. Clearly, you know, that is a I like it or I don't like it kind of thing. Some people love that look, some people don't. I happen to think on this project it's going to look amazing. So let's get some gold out so we can create a wash. All right, let's make our little wash here. This is my 24 karat gold right here. So I'm just going to make a wash of it. I want it to be transparent, but all that beautiful, beautiful gold will still sparkle on our project, and it won't completely cover up all of our shading and highlighting that we've put on here. So it's very transparent. because it's got a lot of water in it. But even with the water in it, oh my gosh, you guys can see that gold sparkle. Oh, I wish you could see it as well as I could see it, because it is absolutely gorgeous. I'm going to try and stay off my black holes down there, so I'm going to go around them. And I don't know if you can see, let's see if I can get that in the light. I've not put gold right there yet. Everything else has the gold on it, so let's put some gold on there. Oh, that sparkle is just gorgeous. Let this dry, and if you want another wash of this gold on there, then put some on. If you get into your black again, you can clean it up. You know, if you want to do this step before you finish out your black, you know, clean up your black, then you can certainly do that. Okay, I'm going to let that dry. So while it's drying, I'm going to go out here and do my line work out here. So I'm going to grab some of this gold in my brush. And 3 lines here. I'm going to follow close to the edge. Right up to my next hash marks. I'm using mostly straight paint here. There might be a tiny bit of water in it from that wash that I created, but it's mostly okay. Just laid my hand in that. That's what I was trying not to do. I'll definitely have to redo that wash. So you could let your topper and everything dry first. Thin that just a little bit. That line is a little thicker than what I want it to be. And I can clean up around that as well with the black paint. Okay, I'm going to have to add just a touch of water to get this to flow. Probably will have to go back over a couple of places here. Trying to figure out how to do this without laying my hand in wet paint somewhere. So this right here seems really light. Got that one a little thick, so I'm definitely going to have to touch that up. Way, way thicker than what I wanted right there. So I will touch up around my gold. This gold is so pretty. I can't even begin to tell you how pretty this gold is on here. Definitely got some cleaning up stuff to do. And I'll do that with a different brush, but I got to go back to my little wash of gold. I laid my hand in it down here and removed almost all of it. And if you want to do it a second time, just to bump up this sparkle in that gold, go for it. Like I said, on the camera shot, you're not going to see a whole lot of it. Okay, I'm going to get my gold dry, and I'm going to touch up around my lines here. A couple of them I got a little bit crazy. Okay, I straightened up my lines here around. I took my black and kind of cleaned up around them. So I think this project is completely done. It's ready to varnish. Let my paint dry a little bit. Oh, now you can see the sparkle on the stars there. I recommend you varnishing with a satin varnish. That's going to keep those sparkly, and the topper and all this down here. Oh, there we saw a little bit of the, there you can see the gold on the bottom on the bell and everything. See, it's just a wash of that gold. How shiny that is. So pretty. So pretty, and I think it turned out beautiful. I love this. I hope that you are going to enjoy painting it. It was a super fun project for me. I love anything Christmas, and I love painting anything peppermint, so it's a win-win for me. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you paint it. Please comment, please like, please share, and please subscribe. I will see you guys on the next one, everybody. Bye-bye.